Good afternoon, people, and happy Easter. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about history and culture. And due to the fact that it doesn't need any more introduction, I'm just going to jump right into it. The main thing that I learned this week is the role that economics plays in art and culture. One can argue that patronage is the primary reason behind the massive growth of painting, music, and literature. Without the support system of money, nothing can grow. Nothing can get funded, no progress can be made. This has held true for quite some time. Before the 17th century, paint was much more expensive and less obtainable. But as it became more of an art form and more artists came to light and were doing it, paint became cheaper and more people were starting to do it, therefore the demand was higher. Subsequently, as the demand increased, the market became much more competitive. This is when art became a prominent aspect of culture. In Shakespeare's time, he was not very popular, believe it or not. People weren't going around the streets and if they see him, they weren't like, oh, it's Shakespeare. He was just an ordinary dude that not a lot of people knew the faces of, but every time he had a show, he sold it out. Despite being known as one of the greatest writers of all time, hardly anyone could put a face to the name behind such great works as Hamlet, Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet. He was only known to his investors and patrons directly supporting him. It wasn't until later that his face was all over the playbills all around town. Contrary to popular opinion, I believe commercialization does not tarnish artistic quality, creativity, or purpose. Yes, there are those who do it just for the money. There's everyone like that. But I believe a true artist does it for the passion and the true art form of it, rather than making a quick buck off a painting or book. Fast forwarding a bit to the rise of the motion picture. Movies nowadays are a much more prominent form of art, culture, and entertainment. Today, movies are influenced heavily by pop culture and commercialism. A lot of them are made to reel in a quick buck, and many succeed undeservingly. I don't even have to name examples. I'm sure you've seen some awful movies that somehow do well in the box office. It's unknown to me. I don't know why, but people just love stupid stuff. Have you ever seen Sharknado? The movie industry is super competitive, and obviously as the years go on, more and more new crazy ideas need to be created to keep the public entertained and keep the industry thriving. And it doesn't look like the movie industry is going to be down for quite some time. The biggest thing I took away this week was the difference between culture and pop culture. Culture is genuine, it's raw, has pure origins. Pop culture is fabricated, easily influenced and swayed. They do share some similarities, but the differences between them are astronomical. The biggest example I see of this is here in the United States. People come to the US looking for jobs or to escape religious or political persecution and many other things. It's the land of opportunity, hence the American dream. That's the culture of this country. And where it changes is when pop culture starts to take over and permeate the overall culture we feel here. Pop culture is influencing us to become accustomed to individualism rather than building a network and bettering others rather than primarily just ourselves. Which is important because growing yourself is the only way you'll be able to help others grow. But this starts becoming a problem when the self-centered take light and narcissism becomes a factor. Recognition is more valuable to those people than making an actual impact and having real things to say rather than negative things that just act as a contrast to what everyone is saying. People will do almost anything nowadays, usually on social media or television, some form of virtual platform, to get the spotlight even for a second. I've been making the case that pop culture is this bad thing that we all need to stay away from, but on the contrary, there are some great positive effects that it has on culture and people as a whole. Pop culture sparks change. It demands innovation. As the needs and desires of people change, as do technology and overall culture change. That is the only way growth happens. You can't grow by staying in the same place, as the famous saying goes. And to be constantly changing is to be evolving, and those who evolve succeed. And that is where we go into culture. The topic of change is where pop culture and culture differ very greatly. Since culture is sort of the root of everything and has historical backbone, a lot of people refuse to accept change and adapt it into their life. And as I said, change is the only way to grow. Therefore, people who are too heavily culture oriented sort of refuse to change their ways and innovate, and whether it's within their business or their life in general. This is why I believe there needs to be a happy medium between pop culture and culture. Those who are too culture oriented, like I said, don't embrace change. They kind of stay stuck in their old ways. Those who are oriented around pop culture are too susceptible to influence. They don't hold their own ideas. You know how it goes. Basically, what I'm getting at is that one must be able to embrace their culture and have that authenticity whilst being able to embrace change and innovation and all the positives of pop culture. History and culture have shaped us to be who we are today. But let's not get carried away with this whole pop culture thing and make some real history of our own. Thanks for watching. Make sure to stay up to date on my website, thechaselondon.com. Next week, I'll be discussing creativity and forward thinking. I'll see you then.